Bonġu nil-għawkom għal-episodju ieħor Lovin Daily dal-għodu miegħi Paula Kawki ma' Tim Diakono. Bonġu Tim.
Bonjour Paula, how's it going?
I'm fine, thank you. Headlines fidek?
Headlines. So, our 5 headlines for today. Malta confirms 63 new COVID-19 cases as the World Health Organization wrongly reports a new death. VIKTOR DRAGOMANSKI blames Daniel MUKA, alleged co-conspirator for the SLIEMA double murder. Dogs are still trapped in MSIDA home where a deadly attack took place on an elderly woman. The new Attorney General told police that SYLVIO VALLETTA should remain on the case of the murder of Daphne Caruana Galizia despite his conflict of interest. And exams have undergone syllabus cuts to make up for lost teaching time as a result of the pandemic. So let's start off with the pandemic. Quite a few new cases yesterday, Paula.
Eżatt, il-fatt li biraħ ġew rapportati 63 każ ġdid, 63 new cases, biex kollox għandna 388 każ attiv, xi 188 active cases as of yesterday, u kellna 31 persuna li għaddilhom 31 recoveries. Però l-kontroversja l-bieraħ bdiet fuq il-persuni tan-nies mejta li għadhom 14, però l-bieraħ wara ġibdet l-attenzjoni illi il-ħu kienu qegħdin jirrapportaw numri ħżiena fuq il-website tagħhom u kienu qed jirrapportaw kemm numru inqas ta' każijiet milli qed ikun irrapportat fuq saħħa u kien irrapportat mewt ieħor, il-15 il-mewt u bekk skattat ġurnata ta' attività qawwija min-naħa tal-insejħilhom jiena il-COVID conspiracy theorists illi għamlu xalata jipprovaw jaraw il-15 il-mewt minn fejġi għal xiex kien moħbi u min kien moħbi. U fil-verità, let me entertain il-ġurnata ta' briju illi kellhom. L-ewwel ħareġ il-15 il-mewt kien moħbi. Mbagħad ħareġ il-conspiracy theorist number 1, mhux ħansemmih bismu, illi qal illi naf minn il-15 il-mewt u l-15 il-mewt miskin weħel dak l-immigrant illi il-ġimgħa l-oħra prova jaħrab mill-ċentru detentiv u miet. Ir-riżulta li vera dak l-immigrant kellu l-COVID, però mill-weġġat ta' ġrieħi kollha li sofra meta qabeż l-ert solari jew kemm qabeż żgur li mhux il-COVID qatlitu. Imma ġifieri komplejna dejjem dal-ħafna tara mill-ħabi whatever, sakemm fil-għaxija ħarġet li CDC li għamlet komunikat formali mal-awtoritajiet tas-saħħa Maltin fejn skużat ruħha illi dak il-15 il-mewt kien typo. Ġifieri ħafna eċitament u mbagħad induna li dak kien fuq typo.
So I don't think it's going to stop the conspiracy theories, far from it. I mean, if you go, some people will still probably believe that this has some kind of cover-up, but what...
Għaw min għaddu jgħid li l-alieni għedin mimexxu d-dinja ġifieri.
Well, what this certainly shows is that sometimes the World Health Organization can get its numbers wrong. Now, there have been reports of this in other countries. The first time it happened in Malta, and we saw how the process worked, right? So there was a typo, a genuine human mistake. Happens to me, happens to everyone, but this happened to the ECDC and it's over something of supreme global importance. And it wrongly reported a death, and the WHO picked it up. And it actually was, for a while, wrong. There was actually wrong information on the WHO's website.
Kasi raskom illi issa ġiet korretta u li qed jimmarkaw kif inhu illi Malta kellna 14 mewt issa.
Yes. So, moving on. There was VIKTOR DRAGOMANSKI, who was one of the 3 suspects in the recent double murder of Christian Pandolfino and Ivo Maciejowski in SLIEMA, appeared in court for the first time yesterday in connection with the case, and the police inspector who interrogated him spoke about what DRAGOMANSKI said during his interrogation. And it seems that DRAGOMANSKI is now pointing the finger of blame solely at Daniel MUKA, who has also been charged with it. So he said he was walking his dog in SLIEMA one fine evening. Daniel MUKA drives up with another friend, Christian Jesperson, who he knew them from Parchville. Remember, this guy worked as a Parchville bouncer, and they told him we need a job. He said he didn't know what it was for, whether it was for robbery or drugs. And he just jumped in the car with them. they ended up going to Locker Street, and Daniel MUKA got out, killed these two people, and then said like, we're done here. And apparently Dragomanski had no idea what was going on. He said like I was shell shocked. I couldn't. He said he would describe standing over the bodies, and he was shocked at it. So like I said that Daniel MUKA ruined his life in just 4 minutes. Obviously, it wasn't VIKTOR Dragomanski who reported Daniel MUKA to the police after the incident, but Daniel MUKA was arrested first. What do you make of this?
Dil-istorja tiġi iktar ambigwa, iktar ma joħorġu fatti. Għara jena ma taqrajt il-headline u li he ruined my life in 4 minutes, tilla miskin da, kemm żventurat. Imma meta mbagħad taqra l-istorja u tara li da kien miexi bil-kelb. Jaf xi ħadd u jgħidlek għandi bżonn li xi ħadd ieħor biex inwettaq reat. Hija qasbis iżraqsih x'tip ta' reat ħatwettaq. Ġifieri, jekk dan huwa bniedem illi għalih serqa, drogi, whatever, għazbis indenja u jisaqsi xini, naħseb tixred daqxej il-karattru tijaw dal-bniedem u li anka jekku ma qatilhom xal xider li CCTV footage li konferma li u daħal fid-dar wara li mietu, tixred li għandek karattru li huwa suscettibli għal reati kriminali. Ġifieri jekk prova inħil ħtija, ma tantx naħseb li jagħmel biċċa xogħol tajba.
When you find yourself charged with murder, those things like robbery and
Kollox ħażin, u ġifieri inti tkun miexi bil-kelb m'għandek l-ebda intenzjoni, l-ebda li twettaq xi ħaġa kriminali u mbagħad tiġi xi ħadd u għax saqsik tiġi tmur u tikser il-liġi hekk.
And this guy, remember, was a bouncer at a nightclub in Patriville, so.
Xaffaritu. Imma issa tiġġudika l-qorti, però dak-każ qed ikompli ħawadna iktar ma nsiru nafu iktar dettalji. Każ ieħor illi ħawdek u vera ta' diqa kien dak ta' nhar it-tnejn li għadda fejn mara anzjana inqatlet mill-pitbulls tan-neputi tagħha. Jidher illi ħarġet in-naħa l-verżjoni tan-neputi tagħha Andregalia li wasit il-pitbulls fejn qal illi lil-nantu li jgħixu fl-istess blokka mill jidher kien jabża biex ma titlax li l-bib tiegħu mingħajr ma tkun akkumpanjata għaliex il-klib tiegħu kienu guard dogs allura setgħu weġġawha. Għamlet hekk kellha ċiwawa fida, jidher li qed ikun suġġeriti li l-klib ridu jattakkaw iċ-ċiwawa u mhux lilha ma jispiċċat vittma fil-proċess. Xorta ġifieri jekk bnied ma tgħix fl-istess blokka u titla' għandu dal-klib ma drawix. Ma nifhimx fil-klip, ma nafx hekk dik ix-sinjal ta' xi ħaġa ulterjuri, nimmaġina li ħajinħattru l-esperti f'dan il-każ, però s'issa sakemm qed jitqisu bħala evidenza dal-klip. Ġifieri sakemm tiddeċidi l-maġistrat x'jiġri minnhom dal-klip għadhom qed jinżammu f'din il-binja, ovvjament irid jirrispondi għalihom is-sit.
And also there's also another issue, which is that what state these dogs are being kept in. So we've received reports that they weren't being kept in a great state, that there were a number of reports filed to the police over the past year or so, and to animal welfare. They investigated, found nothing wrong, and yet this horrible incident happened. Now there were for a few days, for a few hours, and while Andregalia was being interrogated, these dogs were left by themselves over there on the roof, and people are wondering what was going to happen to them. Now, their owner has returned home because he has not yet been charged. He was being suspected of involuntary homicide, because that's what happens when your dogs end up attacking someone and killing them. And now he has been released on police bail. So that's when he gave his interview to the Times of Malta yesterday, where he's portraying himself as almost like a victim in all of this. He's saying his dogs he could never imagine that hurt a fly. I can't believe what happened. Anyway, I mean, this guy is to breed.
Nisma' espert tal-klip, ma tal-behavior tal-klip, li analizza dak li ġara u jekk hux dal-affarijiet jiġrux li l-klip għal-moment jintilfu minn raġuni u jattakkaw.
And there is that taken into account, and also it's also a conditional thing, right? As in, if these dogs, were they being well fed, were they not, what kind of, how were they trained, were they trained properly, what the breeding, like were they being bred with?
Okay.
There's, there's a bit of a grey area in terms of who can breed what and which dogs can as well. Moving on. So, Malta has a new Attorney General, which up until recently. So Victoria Buttigieg was recently appointed as Malta's Attorney General, replacing the long-standing Peter Grech. And she was dressed yesterday. She found herself facing her first controversy after former Police Commissioner Lawrence Cotillard testified in the public inquiry looking into the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia, and he said that Victoria Buttigieg, back then, she was not the Attorney General, but she was working at the AG's office, had herself advised police against removing Silvio Valletta, back then the Deputy Police Commissioner, from the murder investigation. Now, as a quick reminder, Silvio Valletta was at the center of quite a lot of controversy due to his marriage to a former minister at the time, and Daphne Caruana Galizia's family had to fight a legal battle to remove him from the case, and they eventually did win this case at the Constitutional Court, and he was removed. After that, it was actually revealed that Silvio Valletta was extremely close with Jorgen Fenech, who's been suspected to be the killer, the person who masterminded all of this, the murder, and they should actually go on holiday together, speak to each other on a first name basis. So, the fact that Victoria Buttigieg advised police in favor of keeping him on the case is a bit questionable. Now, we don't yet know how much she knew about Silvio Valletta, but it's quite clear that either she didn't have all the information that she needed, or there's something a bit funny with her judgment as it stands.
Min ma naħsibx li huwa ġust illi niġġudikaw l-leġi l-ġdida fuq xi ħaġa illi ma nemminx li dik kienet deċiżjoni purament ta' x'taħseb xi tħoss jekk għandix grazzja miegħu dal-bniedem jekk le. Ġifieri wieħed kif qed inti jrid jara di x'fatti kellha qudiemha meta ħadet dik il-linja, wieħed irid iżomm f'moħħu illi x-xogħol tal-avukati tal-uffiċċju tal-AG huwa illi janalizza l-fatti qudiemu, jara l-liġi korrispondenti għaliha u jagħti parir fuq dak. Issa dejqas biss kienet qed tmexxi dik is-sezzjoni kienet avukata f'dak it-tim, allura naħseb li huwa inġust għall-aħħar illi l-avukat li staqsi min issaqsi fuqha jgħidlek li hija ta' integrità li dejjem ħadet xogħla bis-serjetà u ddedikat ħajjitha għal xogħla tiġi taħt dal-attakk character assassination fuq deċiżjoni bħal di. Apparti li l-każ ta' Jorgen Fenech naħseb tieħu deċiżjoni vjova mill-uffiċċju tal-AG dwarha dejjem ħataqlaħħa minn x'imkien tantu każ sensittiv u li jaqta' mill-ġiex naħat. Ġifieri jiena jiddispeċini nara dal-attakki fuqha, jiena fraħt li għandna mara l-ewwel mara f'dil pożizzjoni, mara tal-kalibru tagħha f'dil pożizzjoni għaliex kien hemm bżonn role model femminili tal-qasam ukoll u nawgura illi dal-attakki ma jfixklux ix-xogħol tagħha.
So besides her gender, what's also important to note is that she's actually the first Attorney General not to not also have the dual function of being the state advocate. So a law was passed recently splitting these two offices into two separate roles. Victoria Buttigieg became the first state advocate, and now she's moving back to her old job, but this time as the Attorney General, which means a new state advocate will need to be found. So I think it's still too early to draw some conclusions about.
Ġifieri mhux qed niġġudikawha fuq xi ħaġa għamlet bħala AG. Qegħdin nippruvaw naqilgħu l-skeletons mill-closet biex ngħidu di mhux tkun tajba.
Then again, I think she should answer to it because there were very serious accusations that the AG was there not to solve cases particularly, but to help the interests of the government of the day.
Allora jeħer kull min kien jaħdem dak
l-uffiċċju. No, I'm saying that she needs to answer for it, and I think that's only fair.
Her superiors answer to fatt qasadu AG. Ġifieri dik l-opinjoni tiegħi imma sa naraw. Nagħdu l-aħħar storja, l-istudenti donhom ġiethom tajba jew le kif tħares liha bil-COVID meta jidher li minħabba l-COVID il-math sek għamu mir-raqda wara snin twal bidlu daqsxejn is-syllabus tal-O-level intermediate u l-A-level u jidher li xi suġġetti mhux xi topics li ħafna studenti kienu jgħidu ma jindax nambihom li jidher tneħħew mis-syllabus ma nafx eżatt il-lista sħiħa tistgħu ssibu wkoll fuq l-artiklu tal-Lovin Malta. X'taħseb? Tixtieq tkun student issa?
Well, it's a tough one because you have to go back to school in a very strange environment where you can't even interact with your friends unless they're in the same class. So to be honest, I'm extremely glad I'm not at school at the moment. However, this is it's tajba msejk, so it's also the argument in favor of watering down the syllabus is because it's to compensate for lost teaching time. What's also interesting over here is that technically the schools didn't end, physical schools closed down, but online teaching still carried on during the pandemic. So something like this does seem to be an admission that online teaching was not 100% successful as it should have been, and they couldn't cover all the syllabus for whatever reason. And this then, when you see these decisions being made, you kind of understand why there was such a drive to reopen schools in the physical format rather than keep everything online, as a lot of people and teachers did indeed want. It seems that it's not that online teaching did not manage to compensate for physical teaching.
Sa naraw jiktibux is-sistemi minn ftit tal-ġimgħat oħra meta jerġgħu jidħlu skola tfal. Wasalna fit-tmiem ta' Lovin Daily, komplu diskussjoni fil-comment section f'ismi u fis-sem Tim. Have a day full of lovin'.